Hello, Phil from Cape York. It is windy here today. The sea is choppy and awful, but we are talking sliders today, and I want to give you 3 reasons why my slider is an essential part of my stock video workflow. Workflow with an O. So let's jump straight into it, shall we? All right. Point number 1 is lens flares. I do love a good lens flare. I am as guilty as anyone out there of overdoing it. I love, pointing the camera through trees and having that flare, having the leaves move in the wind and just flaring it out. I also love vintage lenses, so that really adds another dimension to it. Obviously we know the old lenses can really flare nicely or terribly depending on which way you look at it. I generally will chuck them on a slider just to make them look more professional. I don't like the handheld flary look because it's bumpy and jittery, especially when you got those little bouncy flare balls that bounce all over the screen. I think that looks a bit shit. That's just me. If that's what you're going for, or if it's part of part of the look you're going for, you could probably get away with it if you're doing stuff with people, and obviously shooting at a higher frame rate and slowing it down might get around that. That's just me. I just like the flare to be slow and deliberately revealed. I think that looks a lot better, particularly because I'm not doing edgy creative stuff. I'm doing stock video, which for the most part is boring stuff done well. So point number 1, I want, if I'm getting a lens flare, I want to put it on a slider so it's that slow, deliberate reveal of the colours and the flaring and everything like that. I don't like the handheld look. All right, point number 2, leading into point number 2, is I love the slider because it gives me smooth, consistent, reliable reveals. I love something in the foreground, something out of focus that can be shifted across to reveal the subject that I'm actually filming. It gives the subject more life, it animates it, and depending on what I'm doing, it adds an extra element of depth with the out of focus item in the foreground. I've done a heap of them. You can do it with time lapses, you can do it with regular speed clips. I think it looks really great. And obviously if it was just me, which it normally is, I wouldn't be able to pull that off. So the electronic slider, set it up, quick test run, then I can do what I'm doing. I can have a look, I can refine it, shoot it again if need be. But I love that. And handheld stuff, yeah, I've tried handheld stuff and I've seen lots of other people with handheld stuff. The old leg spread bent over, kind of manual dolly across or on a gimbal. I don't think it quite works well enough. Yeah, you can reach the end of the road here. You can really, you try to stabilize it, you can try all sorts of things, and I'm not a fan. I just like to set it up and run it as a mechanical one. It's reliable, consistent. I can do it again and again. I can retake it several times. It'll be the same. All right, that leads straight into point 3, and point 3 is it adds movement to a visually static image. And what is movement? Movement is visual interest. To me, it's visual interest anyway. You might have a nice landscape shot, but if you've just set up a wide and you're just taking the shot of it, it's kind of boring. You can make it so much nicer, so much more interesting with a bit of movement. And the movement doesn't have to be much, especially if we jump back to point 2, foreground interest, because the slider I use doesn't move that far. It's a Zeppelin Micro 2, so it's one of those double distance short compact sliders, which I love because it means I can bring it places easily. It's not, a big sort of meter long slider that I've got to sling over my shoulder and bring. Obviously with the foreground interest elements, the slider doesn't have to move that far to make it more interesting. I mean, take this crap here, for example. You could be shooting a sunset. Let's say the sun sets over there. You put the slider down, it could shoot across that side. It could come up maybe, because if it's a wide, you're not going to have it's not going to register much movement anyway, because obviously a wide shot with a slider doesn't physically move far. It's not going to look like it's moving at all. So how do you I guess accentuate the movement is bang something in the front of it and have it shifting across. So you could get that as a nice sunset. That'd look really good, and it just adds that extra layer, because I've taken, you know, many a nice video of a sunset, a nice sort of landscape area, you know, a lush part of this place we live in, but it's not really good enough to upload because it just doesn't wow me. It's almost if I look at it and I can't instantly tell is that a photo or a video, then my own yardstick is that it doesn't make the cut, because it could be a photo. And I've seen stuff uploaded that has no movement, that you're watching, looking for some movement in there, because obviously the human eye is drawn to movement. And if you can't see that movement, then for me it doesn't make the cut. It doesn't have to be much movement. It can be raindrops in the water and the ground. It can be birds flying past. It can be clouds obviously moving. There's got to be some movement, and a slider for me really adds that element. It doesn't have to be fancy slides and was that perspective, like parallax movements and everything. They do look pretty cool and they have their place. I can't do them because I've just got the basic version, which is just the left to right movement. But you know what, that's enough for me. I know you can fake movement, you can crop in and you can have that lateral movement with keyframing and everything. It's not the same. The perspective doesn't shift. It looks like digital movement made after the fact, and you're losing resolution once you start cropping in. So I'd rather let the buyer sort that out if that's what they want to do. If they want to crop in and have that digital movement, because obviously how I see it, and not that I'm a stock guru or anything, but how I see it is that we're kind of giving the buyer as many options as they want in terms of color grading, in terms of cropping in terms of if they want to add more movements, they want to add camera shake digitally, all that sort of thing. I'll make it basic, but I'll do it well and I'll upload it, and then they can decide what they want. Because if you're putting fancy stuff all over it, then that might be the difference between a sale or not, because they can add fancy shit if they want. If they want to add fancy, you know, heads-up displays to a drone video or something, go nuts. But they're gonna pay for the privilege of doing that. But if it's already all over, now, yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I don't have that many sales to kind of back up my thought process, but I see my own work as a very basic, almost boring, but done well video so that they can do what they want. But anyway, that's a bit of a ramble. So 3 main points that my slider is essential. 1, I love lens flaring. It gives me consistent, usable results. Point 2 is I love those kind of foreground element reveals. I cannot do that mechanically, or I cannot do that because it's just me filming. So that's point number 2. I think that goes really well. And that leads into point number 3, which is adding movement to a boring shot. I've taken no shortage of things like rubbish photos, no shortage of rubbish videos out here. And what looks good is a bit of movement. Sometimes, obviously, when you're close in, you got the plants and the trees moving in the wind, because obviously pretty windy here, as I can attest to today. That's really good and that's really helpful, and that gets that kind of gets by. But yeah, as I said before, plenty of times where it's filmed like, nah, there's not enough movement, it doesn't make the cut. So obviously bonus points if you can combine all 3. You've got a real winner, as long as it tells a story. Big fan of points 2 and 3, combining them 2. Got some examples here for you, which I've showed already. But that's all I got. Thank you very much. It's the 5th of March now. Where's the time gone? Thank you, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye-bye.